Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Say Report. I'm your host, Devon Decker, and joining me, my host companion, Sejan Sarwick. Sejan?
Devon, have you ever watched the music video for Herbie Hancock's Rocket? It is disturbing and also just a chilling vision of the future.
No, I have not. I didn't know that Rocket had a music video. That's my for real take on this conversation we are having right now, is that I was unaware of that fact.
I don't know how. Okay, I'm kind of proud that collectively as a people, we determined we were not going to let this become a thing that entered the zeitgeist, because then we weren't all going to be aware of it. But now here I am, like poking a hole in this whole thing and saying, no, I want everybody to go watch the music video for Rocket by Herbie Hancock.
All right. I guess I'll make sure to post up a link to it in our supplemental materials channel in our Discord.
I can't tell if it would be a nightmare or a wet dream for Elon Musk. I really couldn't tell you either way.
I mean, it's such a thin line between nightmare and wet dream for everyone, not even just Elon Musk. I swear I was all prepared with things to talk about this episode. It's all gone from my head. It all evaporated as soon as I sat down in the chair. And that's fun, right? Like, that's a fun episode. You know what I want to talk about? I don't want to talk about it. First of all, welcome to the Say Report. We're a show about everything. We talk about everything. Sejan, have you seen it?
Have I seen it?
Have you seen it?
I think I know what you're talking about, but no. In that case, no, I haven't seen it.
No, I haven't seen it either. Okay. But that's where I want to start today. Because if you've been listening to this show or just living in the world, Hollywood is in trouble. But it feels like a savior has come from the West to defy expectations and save cinema. Maybe not for the better, but at least for good.
Well,
it's quite popular. Can't believe how many of these fucking things I've had. Holy crap. I'm going to Box Office Mojo right now. I have not looked at this. We're doing it live. First of all, Everybody hated Red 1, but all of the commercials are like, it's the best fucking movie ever. So I don't know. Currently, we only have 1 day reporting for Wicked, the Friday. It's $46,740,000 that it made on its opening day. And I know that there were like a bunch of like early screenings and everything, but Wicked scares me, Sejan. That's what I want to talk about. And it doesn't scare me because of like the content. I'm not afraid. It's not the scary witch from the Woolworths when I was 3 years old. That witch scares me. Have I ever talked about this witch? I want to give a little bit of air to this witch. this witch.
Oh man, Dev. Anything to not talk about Wicked, huh?
Well, you didn't understand. The Woolworths was in the Sears Town Mall. We've been to the Sears Town Mall together. I know that we've done that at least one time. If we went to Borders, these are all Devon and Sejan references. This is the worst. But we're also going to be talking about an intergenerational franchise for like just a brief minute. But also, it's an intergenerational franchise that admittedly neither of us have seen the latest entry in. But we're going to talk about Wicked. But this witch, so the Woolworths was inside of a mall, which was crazy to begin with. And they did a setup for Halloween that like poured into the mall. Fuck like fire laws or codes, right? So it's 1986, right? We didn't know that fire could be prevented by us humans. We still worshipped it as a god that it was. And if God wanted to set fire to something, who were we to try to prevent that? So they had a Halloween display that went out like into the halfway point of the mall. And at the very edge of this display was an inflatable witch. And not like the inflatables you see on yards now. No. She looked like she was all melted and deflated, like she had been exposed to water and was the Wicked Witch of the West in The Wizard of Oz. And let's just be honest about it. So then you'd walk by and it was motion activated. And as you walked by, it would inflate and rise up and scare the bejesus out of 3-year-old Devon Decker. Like, honestly, I was so terrified of this blow-up witch. But then I, mustered my courage as I watched her melting down, and I'm like, I'm not afraid of the witch. And I walked right up to it, and that activated the motion sensor, and she inflated again, and I pissed myself, and I ran away. maybe I didn't piss myself, but it was a thing that happened, right? That is a witch I'm afraid of. I am not afraid of the witches in Wicked. I am afraid of the reaction that it's having in theaters, because honestly, I can't remember the last time I saw a movie sell out a theater. Now that's insane things to say, right? It has to have happened post-pandemic. Things like Spider-Man No Way Home and the way that it made money, and like the joke like this is what's causing COVID to continue because people keep going to see it in these sold out theaters. Yeah. But Wicked is the first time I've logged on to like see, maybe I'll check it out. And again, I'm probably not going to, and we can talk about that too, because
let me ask you about a couple of other bigger movies this year. Like, did you make an effort to see anything with Avatar? Like, because that's another $1 billion and some change.
Yeah, last year. Right? That's a good point. Yeah, so I imagine that Barbie and Oppenheimer. Barbie, I know for a fact. Inside Out 2. I can't even believe I've watched Inside Out 2. Like that's how I felt about that movie. I'm glad I did because it was much better than Inside Out. But again, that's just my personal opinion on that. So they are these things, but it is like, but I've gone and seen like superhero movies, and but then like also like what? Look at the superhero movies that we had this year, Madam Web. But like Deadpool Wolverine was nowhere near selling out theaters at 11 a.m.
But it also wasn't predicted to hit $1 billion before its opening weekend.
True, that's a good point. That's a very good point.
Wicked and like Avatar is the other one I will point to that was like people were saying like this is essentially this has to be $1 billion movie or it's nothing. And that's kind of the position that Wicked was in. I mean, you and I, this is not the first time you and I have talked about Wicked. We talked about the idea that, like, we weren't sure how it was going to do in the current movie client, that it could go either way. And it seems to have shaken out a very particular way so far, but we'll see, because the other big thing is that we also know an opening day means fuck all.
Well, I mean, it is sold out. My big Wicked story, I was going to see it. I was going to give up some of my principles and go see it, because my mom wanted to see it. And if I would go see it for Mom, like I'll admit that. And I looked at tickets, and the only one that
for the record, I am not opposed to seeing it. It's just that I'm
opposed to seeing it for a different reason. I don't want to really give it any money, and that's where I'm at. And we'll get to why that is, because I think it's something that we should probably discuss. But. Or maybe we've already discussed and I'm an idiot and I forget it, and we'll just be readdressing the conversation. But Mom wanted to see it, and I'm like, let's go check it out. So Tuesday was the only time that there were not sold out shows, like our almost full shows. I'm not interested in going to a full theater. And I'm like, you know what, 11 a.m., I'll go into work for a couple of hours, and then I'll go see the movie, and then I'll finish off my day working from home. I can get that clearance. That should be something that I should be able to do. But then I went to go buy the tickets yesterday, and the 11 a.m. Tuesday show is gone. It does not exist anymore. Because here's the crazy thing, and this might just be in Rhode Island, where there is only there are 2 laser projection theaters, but in that theater that has laser projection, there is only one auditorium that is outfitted with the technology of the Dolby Atmos and the laser projection and all of that bullshit. That's not bullshit, but like, it is kind of like an expensive install to do. And the Atmos speaker has never worked properly since I saw the Batman there. God, was that 3 years ago, Sejan? Was the Batman 3? No, it was only 2 years ago. All right, I'm calming down a little bit. There's only the one theater. So the Wicked film is splitting its time with Gladiator 2, which also released, which let's see how Gladiator 2 is doing. While we're looking at Wicked, $22 million.
Yeah, that's actually I thought it.
I thought it was going to be a lot lower. I'll be honest with that. Like in the Red One $3 million territory, and then like number 5 on the list is Venom: The Last Dance with $975,000. That's just hilarious to me. That's the top 5 latest dailies. But yeah, so like, so it's splitting its time with that, and then come next week, come Tuesday, both Gladiator and Wicked lose their coveted laser projection theater slots to Moana 2, which also, did you know there's a Moana 2? That's like not only coming out, but it's coming out in 3 days.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how this one does too, because like, I have realized, especially with Wicked, I think, and I think this kind of gets to some of what you were talking about with what's going on with it outside of even just the movie itself. I don't watch anything that pushes movies on me anymore. It's not. I'm not gonna sit here and act like, oh, I don't consume anything that like is a commercial or like is commoditized or any of that bullshit. No, I see plenty of fucking commercials. I see commercials for things like NordVPN now. Like that's the most average commercial thing that I'm gonna see in my consuming, right? So like I don't see movie previews anymore. I don't see anything that tells me like this is. I know about these things because like I dive into like Reddit conversations and stuff, or I poke around on YouTube, like purposely looking for things. Like I will go for trailer hunting, but like I need to remember to do that, and so like nothing is just kind of just casually fed to me anymore in terms of movie trailers. It's wild for me to think about that, and like so there's something about like Wicked that has been everywhere, but not in front of me. Like it's been, I know for a fact that like every fucking store has a Wicked cross promotion right now, right? Like Target had some like Wicked line of
I feel so
Walmart
bad for Target because
Justice.
they
like,
are empty. Sorry, I'm sorry. Justice, the girls store at the mall.
Yeah. Yeah, like they had a cross promotion with Wicked. They did like a bunch of like they had some badass looking like jackets and stuff because they're like Letterman jackets, like kind of leaning into like the academic side of this idea, because part of the concept of Wicked that is wild
Harry
to me
Potter.
is that they are supposed to be these younger versions of themselves, and so but what they've done with some of the marketing, I think that's really smart. I mean, clearly it's paying off. I think is that they've really leaned into pushing Wicked on the next generation because they really want to push themselves as a show, a movie, Broadway show, and movie as like for younger audiences, even though the story is pretty mature and the original book. I mean, the Gregor Maguire stuff that this all comes from is I would not say an adult for kids. I mean, an adult for kids, a novel for kids. It's definitely a novel geared towards an adult audience. But there's something about them really wanting everybody to know that Wicked is for like everyone, including kids. So bring your kids. Hey, don't forget, let's pitch this to your kids. So like the amount of toys that are out there for Wicked, the amount of like books, like easy read books, like even like little golden books and things like that. Like there's just so much stuff being pushed right now on Wicked that even I, who don't consume that much media that pushes like film like shit on me, I've been very aware of Wicked. Versus something like Moana 2, where I haven't heard fuck all. The only reason I'm even remotely aware of it is because of how much I really enjoy the first one. So like the second I heard there was going to be a Moana 2, I've been keeping my eyes out specifically for it, but I have had to go looking for anything to do with that. But like Wicked is just fucking everywhere.
Yeah, and it's not as well as, like I was going to say, I feel bad for Target because they had these beautiful setups that were stocked forever with the Mattel, like, semi-Barbie versions of Glinda and Elphaba, which also, I'm a little bummed that her name is actually Glinda. I did the search this morning, and as opposed to being Galinda in the original Broadway musical, and I believe the novel, right, because he was trying to, like, skirt stuff with it. I've not read the book. No, it's just Glinda in that. Why did they make it Galinda? Why did they remake Galinda, who is destined to become Glinda? It's in the book. I'm not an idiot. But she's just Glinda, because I've been getting mad all week as people are like, it's the story of the Wicked Witch and Glinda. And I'm like, it's Galinda. Like, say it like her stupid name in the movie. But in the movie, her name is just Glinda, not Galinda. I hate myself for this last 5 minutes of talking that I've done. I just want to say that.
I just thought it was just people just having different affectations. I did not realize that there was like a denoted difference between the two.
There's an A. Her name is spelt Galinda in the novel and in the thing. No, and apparently she's Galinda in the frickin' Ariana Grande is playing Galinda, not Glinda. I'm so mad at myself. I'm so sorry for doing this. But I feel bad for Target because they had all of these dolls that were not selling. And then this movie was going to come out and they were going to sell. right? It's one of those situations where, like, people who are in the know will buy them now, but then the movie will come and we have all this stock. But with the whole wHicked.com thing, wHicked.com, by the way, is a porn site. It is not affiliated with the film Wicked. All of those toys had to get pulled off the shelves. So, like, you go down the Target aisles now, and it is a big empty spot where Wicked was supposed to be.
I wouldn't feel too bad for Target specifically, because I'm sure that Target's not the one that's paying for that, right?
Yeah.
There's no way Mattel was like, well, we're keeping your money. You have to pull all that shit, but we're keeping your money.
Right, but I mean, it just looks bad, because we were given no time to, like, pivot the fact that we're not going to have this wonderful Wicked display. And then they have the Wicked display, and it's like, you can have a wig to dress up like Elphaba, or here are the little people dolls, which I, like, poured over that box to see if it had the Wicked.com on it, and people are just idiots because nobody really cares about the little people. And I know that that's not true. I know people collect the Fisher-Price little people dolls that are also by Mattel, but I just have no interest in them. And I've ran into a couple of collectors, and they're like, do you buy these? And I'm like, no, I don't know who's buying them, but they keep producing them, so somebody has to be, right? Unless it's some big producer's, like, write-off. But no, I mean, like, so Wicked I was going to see, but it's out of the laser projection for Disney. And I don't know. I'm not going to pay to see it in the theater unless I'm seeing it the best way possible. And I don't want to pay to see it anyway because, I mean, maybe we talked about it. You tell me. And if we have, sorry to the listeners, but I do want to talk about it. The whole thing with Cynthia Erivo losing her mind on Twitter over a fan edit of the poster. Are you familiar with that at all? Like,
Oh yeah. No, yeah. So, like, basically coming out and saying that, like, fan creations and fan material was like insulting.
This is an insultation to me. Like, you've erased me from this poster by this work. That is, and that's the other crazy thing, right? Is one of my coworkers, we were talking about Wicked. I'll say, hi Bradley, thank you for this conversation. You said I could bring you up, and I do want to give you credit for the topic. He's like, the craziest thing about Wicked and the whole franchise is just how intergenerational it is. So, like, this is a movie that is for Gen Z and also on some level Gen Alpha, though I don't think any Gen Alphas are, like, old enough to really appreciate this film.
Oh, no, dude, no, but that's just it, though, is that they are the ones that are getting the commercials for, like, the lip gloss. They're getting the commercials for, like, the Ariana Grande line at All Day and stuff like that. Like, they are the youngest ones out there are the ones that are also being pushed on this stuff. So I do think that, I don't know if it's working. I'm that's not what I'm saying, but they are definitely making an effort to also include Gen Alpha. Like, they are doing everything they can to be like, this is a movie for everyone to come and see on this holiday weekend. And, like, they want everyone to be in. And it's because they know that they've got a hefty franchise on their hands here. Like, they've got potential, I mean, already for a second movie. That's not potential. That's going to happen. But then on top of that, there are other stories in the Wicked universe that are not Broadway shows. But can you imagine if they turned around and said, we are going to extend this universe now in film form? And, like, the ways in which that could draw stuff in. Plus the merchandise that already exists. As you mentioned, the toys and stuff that are out there for this movie. But also, Wicked was big shit before. There was plenty of merch for them to still lean into for the last 15 years since it came out.
Yeah, well, so it's a movie being made for Gen Z, Gen Alpha, based on a Broadway musical that was specifically targeted at the millennials, based on a book that was specifically targeted at Gen X, that is an adaptation of a film that was aimed at baby boomers and traditionalists, based on a novel that was written for the greatest generation. Like, it is, and even then, between the novel and the film adaptation from 1939, there was a musical of it, because there are songs that are not in the movie from the stage musical that existed. This is a huge franchise, right? I know I've talked about on the show before that in this household, we make a point to point out the fact that there is a reference to The Wizard of Oz at least once a day. It's the 85th anniversary of the goddamn Wizard of Oz this year. Right? I can't think of her name. I just want to call her Dorothy Gale. What's her name?
Judy Garland.
Judy Garland. Thank you. Yeah. Should have had that one queued up. And it's like this is a thing that like every generation has had something to do with the Wizard of Oz. And this
do you
is
remember
just
the really weird Zoe Deschanel Tin Man miniseries that was on Sci-Fi?
I do. I remember that. Do you remember the Saturday morning cartoon, Dorothy's Adventures in Oz?
Adventures in Oz. Yeah. Wow. That's like deep in the. That is. Oh my God.
That was one of those.
That is deep in the brain.
That was only on occasionally, and I felt like it got preempted all the time by like sporting events or things like that. But it's a show that exists. And then there's also that weird one with Dan Aykroyd and Kelsey Grammer. That Oz movie.
I just watched
Marshall
Return to Oz this weekend.
Yeah, and there's like this is a franchise that's a great movie. I do love that. But this is a franchise that is 85 years old, getting its newest entry now. And it's a 2-hour and 41-minute film that by all accounts is going to end with fucking defying gravity, right? Like, it's supposed to be just the first act of the already, like, 3-hour Broadway show?
Yeah, somehow it's a wild thought. We are not the first people to point this out. I'm not going to act like this is
it's not us. I understand that.
But there is a common held understanding of the show Wicked amongst even the biggest of fans that the first act of that show is the show. Because it has Popular, it has Defying Gravity, it has all the hits, right? And you get like your big moment, and also just some of the more powerful imagery of the show and stuff. And pretty famously, the back half of that play is not necessarily as enjoyable. So the fact that they've chosen to split these movies into the one you want to see, and then the one you're just gonna kind of feel you have to see, is what everybody out there is like. Oh, this is on purpose, because now everybody's going to talk about how good Wicked is, having not really seen the second half, and then people are going to get to a point where they go to that one, and it's going to be like, not as good as the first, but the first is still a banger. But, like, in reality, we are talking about the same show.
It's the same show. It's like that whole swath of people, I don't know if they're real, but who didn't realize that there were Nazis in The Sound of Music because they only ever watched the first tape.
That's somebody's famous bit, and like, to be fair, as somebody that grew up watching that movie all the time, we did not always watch the entire movie, but at some point you learn that there are Nazis in The Sound of Music, right? Like, I don't know how that becomes like a revelation in like your 20s, right?
No, I mean, I've known someone who did it. Like, it's a thing that happened with, like, you've never watched the rest of The Sound of Music? Like, you just thought it ended? What? That's so crazy. But I think
there's supposedly a Wizard of Oz anime. There's like from like the 90s. There's apparently like there's tons of Wizard of Oz cartoons, including a CGI one now. There's like a more recent one that was CGI. There's a wild. The Wizard of Oz is ever present.
Yeah, well, again, for the last and why wouldn't it be? God, Wicked. I'm so happy. I mean, I feel like we're both there. You tell me if I'm wrong. But like when you got into theater, I'm making a lot of assumptions right here, right? We both have theater degrees, so I imagine we had similar sort of experiences with theater in high school. I'm so glad that it was Rent that was the big show that got me, like, not into stuff, but like that I had to hear all the actor kids sing was Rent and not Wicked. Because there was definitely that moment where it transitioned into Wicked is all we fucking care about.
Well, my freshman year, I think, it might have been 2007 was the movie, I think. But there was that documentary that dropped that if you were a theater student at that time, it was required viewing. Show Business. I have it right here in front of me. Show Business, The Road to Broadway, 2007. Do you remember this documentary?
I am apparently not a real theater kid. I've never seen it. My exposure.
Alan made us watch this. Then Paula made us watch this. Like, everybody made us watch this at URI. It was the documentary where it was about the behind the scenes of 4 big shows, the 4 big premiere shows that were coming out the season before. So like 2005, 2006 on Broadway. So it follows Wicked, Avenue Q, Caroline or Change, the Tony Kushner musical, and Taboo, the Boy George musical. that was produced by Rosie O'Donnell, right? And it follows those four. And one of the more interesting threads throughout the entire thing, it's about more than just this, but it is a documentary that starts before while these shows are still being conceptualized. So you get to watch them build these shows all the way through rehearsals, all the way through premiere, all the way through award season that year. So watching this really cool through line in it is this table of critics that meets for lunch on a regular basis, talking about, oh yeah, we heard about these shows, and here's what we think they are, and here's what we think they're gonna do, and then eating fucking crow, because it is one of the funniest fucking bits in the thing where they have to go back to them after the shows have all come out, because all of them are convinced that Taboo is going to be the big winner because it's a Boy George musical. It's a jukebox musical. It's music everybody knows. Rosie O'Donnell, who at the time was still extremely popular. I think in 2005 she still had a show on, right?
She still had a show, yeah.
Yeah. So like they were just convinced that was going to be the thing that was going to sweep. Wicked was going to land flat on its face because nobody wanted the book was too weird and nobody wanted to see the Wizard of Oz turning into this. Avenue Q was going to be a dud because it was Sesame Street. Basically, a lot of the same things they thought about Wicked, they thought about Avenue Q. And then Caroline or Change, they're like, oh, that's going to be that's going to end up being the one that's going to be most important, and that's going to be the one that's really like not. It's never going to be good enough for us to really like it. But I feel like we're all going to have to like it. is kind of the attitude about it, because like the subject matter, which for anybody that doesn't know it, is about a black woman who works for a white family, and the relationship between her and the child in the family is one of the driving plots of that story in the 1950s 1960s. I'm not too sure on that, but the music is all like stuff in the house, like she listens to the radio and music, and it's the music that she listens to when she's working, or they go to a show or something like that. But but Tony Kushner writing a musical was also huge, right? So like there's all this attitude of like, well, because of the subject matter and because of the story behind it, we all have to act like this is gonna have to be the big show, right? And the truth is that it's actually a stellar fucking show. So the premieres are just completely Taboo goes fucking nowhere, and Wicked becomes Wicked. Avenue Q becomes Avenue Q. So like they just have to eat crow for like an entire 5 minutes at the end of that movie, looking back on all of the shit that they were saying about what they thought was gonna happen. But that was my introduction to a lot of Wicked. By that point, people around me had seen it. It was already kind of gaining its traction, right? And it was becoming huge, and people were all about it. So like I was aware of it. So watching that documentary was the first time I was like, oh, okay, like I see some of the pieces of this now, and I get why people are so into this. It wasn't a show that I ever pushed myself to see. I did eventually see it when it toured through PPAC at some point.
Yep, that's when I saw it too. We went on a town-sponsored field trip to go see Wicked at PPAC. Nice. And we rode the big red bus, and it was all this super Coventry sort of thing.
But Wicked was like baked into our experience in theater in a way that like shows like Rent kind of became for earlier generations, for sure.
I mean, it's like, and it's weird how like that's the thing, because it was Cats to Rent to Wicked. There might have been something between Cats and Rent that I'm forgetting.
Les Mis is in there somewhere too.
Yeah.
Right? Les Mis is one of those shows that,
But I remember, like, I watched an episode of Wings, and the whole thing is that they win tickets to go see Rent. And they're like, yeah, we can just fly up to New York and we'll see Rent, and then everything goes bad for them. Because, it's fucking Wings, right? Nothing goes good for the Hacketts and Helen Chapel. And then later her sister, Amy Yazbek.
To be fair, it'd be a boring-ass episode of any show if they were like, we won these tickets to go see a show. Rent. Let's go see a show. And then they go see a show. And they're like, hey, that was a good show. The end. That wouldn't be...
It would not... There'd be... Yeah, you need conflict, and I understand that. It's just very... It's so funny, that part of it. But I am happy that Rent was still the thing of the day. And I watched as Wicked. And I mean, because, like, I had friends who did it. And then when I came in 2003, like, that's when I was, like, brought in to assist the current lighting guy. And that was just because we were friends, right? Like, it's not that I had any drive to do theater. Like, I still got a little bit of that Rent before the Wicked happened. And then, like, I hated Wicked just because of the love and adoration and just how much it was talked about around me. So you get that as well. But, like, that's not the reason why I'm not. Like, this was a film where I'm like, I'm probably going to see it. I saw it in theaters. It's The Wizard of Oz. It's such a big part of my family. But then when Cynthia Erivo had that, like, breakdown about, like, you can't do fan things, it's offensive to me. It's insulting. Like, I'm like, you know what? I don't really want to give this money, my money anymore. And it seems like that doesn't matter, right? The whole world is going to see this movie. Everybody is seeing it on Sunday. It's now that Sunday that every personality, I don't know if that happened to you. You say you're not exposed to it, but like radio DJs, like I have my tickets to see it on Sunday. College football, I have my tickets to see it Sunday at 5 p.m. Like, I don't believe for a second, by the way, that college football announcer is seeing Wicked today at 5 p.m., the day we're recording. I don't. Like, that just feels so manufactured bullshit.
No, I know the few people that I have heard ask and talk about it have all mentioned over the holiday. That's the big thing for me, is I'm surprised to see how well it's doing this weekend, considering that next weekend is when everybody's going to be free. So, I mean, does that mean that it's going to, like, snowball and become this huge thing? Or is the crowd that just wants to see it watching it now because they couldn't convince anybody to go with them, right? Like, if I asked my whole family, can we get, like, when we're together for Thanksgiving, can we go see Wicked, and all of them said no, then I'd go and see it this weekend so that at least I had seen it and then go into the holiday, right? So, like, I don't know what the holiday is going to do to all of this. It's going to be really wild.
Well,
here's
the other thing, and this is an interesting thing.
I don't think that it's doing anything. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I feel like people consider this weekend the holiday. I don't know how things are going out in Utah, but there are a bunch of schools in Rhode Island that have all next week off. Like, it's not even
they
like...
go through to Wednesday.
What's that?
They go through to Wednesday.
They go through to Wednesday, right? That's what we used to do, right? And then you'd have Thanksgiving and Black Friday off. But no, there are a bunch of schools now that have all next week off. So I wonder, so some of those people saying we're going to see it over the holiday, that includes this weekend that we're currently living in because of the next week. So I'm glad to know that it's not that case over in Utah. I think they just like, and I don't think it's really a holiday for everybody. Like, the colleges are still have classes through till, well, no, they have Wednesday off, which is, I guess, kind of nice for travel, but also seems a little weird because, like, when we were in college, we went to school through Wednesday, and then they're like, oh, and by the way, you can't be in your dorm the next 2 days.
Right, yeah, but also then it bit everybody in the ass, and we always ended up all traveling that Wednesday anyway. I mean, like, I think that, I do think that even when I was teaching, we were teaching through to that Wednesday, but I am 100% sure that I never actually taught that Wednesday, because it would become one of those things where it's like, go read in the library or something like that, because like I know you're not going to be here, I don't want to be here, so it would become one of those days anyway. So it makes sense to not include that day when you're scheduling out in the future. Yeah,
I don't know, but it's one of those things. So, because the other thing that's really strange is, why did they release it a week before the holiday, right? Because Moana is going to be the Thanksgiving movie of 2024, and that's what people are probably going to see as a family. Because like you said about Wicked, what is Wicked rated? Is it PG-13? I do not ever live with movie ratings anymore. It's the craziest part of my life is that they mean nothing to me.
Yeah, if it's not PG-13, I'll eat my hat. I mean, it is
PG. It is rated PG.
Okay, I was sorry. I was thinking there's no way it's fucking R.
Right, no. But no, I mean, it's John M. Chu. I really like John M. Chu. I'm really excited that the director of In the Heights, people are finally going to get to see him direct a musical. Because everybody I bring up In the Heights with is like, nobody saw that movie. And I'm like, I really liked the show, so I was excited to see the movie. And the director did Crazy Rich Asians. Like, so eventually I will watch Wicked. I will watch it at home, probably when it comes to streaming, so I'm not, like, directly giving it my money. Because I really didn't like the way that whole thing was handled. I didn't love it. But now I'm thinking about it and wondering, because you said that Wicked has been everywhere, if these controversies were part of the marketing scheme. Like, the whole Wicked.com is a porn site thing kept them in the news cycle for longer than 24 hours.
Yeah, if we're gonna get to tinfoil hat territory, I will draw the line at them doing these things on purpose. But I 100% buy that when something like this happens, there is part of the marketing team's job is to then take that and ride that shit, right?
Yeah, no, I would never say that
I don't think that they purposely put a porn site on their toys when they put them out. But the second they found out they did, while the majority of the team was trying to figure out how to fix it, one small part of the team's job was to figure out how to make it work.
Keep us in the frickin' consciousness of our viewers, of the population. Even though we're going to try to solve this, make sure that we're talking about it. Like the whole...
And then that's when I get to be like,
Yeah.
that's when I start to get in with the conspiracy theory of like, so then that leads to the idea that maybe they aren't so careful as they do proofs, right? Like we like to think, how could they let this happen? But it's because they want shit like this to happen. Like the reason that they don't ride somebody's ass for like making sure that proofs are correct is because if something does get out the door and goes a little sideways, all it is good publicity.
Exactly. And I can't, because then I can devolve into everything is fucking just a simulation, right? Like that, I'm just a little too close to everything is manufactured in our world. And I know that everything is, I can't do this. I gotta pivot away from this. My brain's already hurting me for like, don't think this way, Devin. but yeah, like man. So I mean, I haven't seen it. I'm probably not going to see it, and I don't imagine it's at the top of your list to see it, right? Like you know,
it's actually with like the next big watch for me as far as Wizard of Oz goes is that I'm the only one in the house that's ever seen the Sam Raimi Oz the Great and Powerful. And so when
I forgot about that movie. I've never seen that movie. Yeah. So like
that one's like gorgeously like it's wild. It's in the same era and from I think the same artistic director as the Alice in Wonderland
right?
Yeah. Disney did. Yeah, so it's got a little bit of that kind of vibe to it in terms of the style. But in general, like it's a wild film, and you know it's Sam Raimi just like being weird.
Yeah, it's a Sam Raimi, and it's what Franco is the wizard, right?
James Franco, yeah, and Mila Kunis is I believe Elphaba in it. I think
is her name Elphaba in it though. I can't imagine. I don't. Is that we're now accept that that's the canon name of the Wicked Witch of the West, right? Not to be a dick about it, but I'm curious. Like, how do you create something like Wicked? By all accounts, the first book released in '95. Is fan fiction, right? Her name comes from L. Frank Baum, right? Becoming Elphaba. And then, like, no, it's Theodora and Evanora. Rachel Weisz and Mila Kunis play.
That's right.
Yeah,
right.
So.
Yeah. The Gregory Maguire, like, the whole thing, his whole shtick for his more popular books was doing this kind of fairy tale fan fiction. You know, like I don't want to like diminish it. There's
nothing wrong with it. I love
has a bad, but like you know, the very first book that I was ever aware of in his series in that regard was Confessions of an Ugly Stepsister, right? And like that was like the big one that hit that landed, all about one of Cinderella's stepsisters writing from her perspective, you know, and that becoming kind of the big thing. He's wrote like a really weird one about the Christmas Carol called Marley that is like really weird. I think he's the one. No, not Marley. What is the name of that one? Scrooged? No, that's the Bill Murray one. I don't know. He's got like all sorts of weird ones in this vein though, right? And then with Wicked, when Wicked hit as big as it did, he's gone back to that world a couple of times and done like a whole like world of beyond of what you just know from the original book and stuff. So like, yeah, there's some really interesting stuff there. It's part of what I'm saying is that like, if this movie hits as well as it hits and they play their cards right, they have got potential here to get the ball rolling on a ton of different stuff. Like I could totally imagine a Peacock streaming series 6 to 10 episodes long of them doing one of the other books in the series, non-musical style, right? Saying that they just do it as just a straight show and buying into that. They do a whole thing with like the Cowardly Lion story in that world. I believe
he has
somebody's kid,
9 books.
Linda's kid.
He has 9 books. The Wicked Years, which is Wicked, Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West, Son of a Witch, A Lion Among Men, and Out of Oz. And then the Another Day trilogy, which is a sequel, that came out in 2021. It's The Brides, the Oracle, and the Witch of Maricor in that order. And then coming out this year, I don't know if it's released or not, but Elfie, A Wicked Childhood is a Wicked prequel that says 2024, but I don't know if it's actually out. It doesn't link to, he's writing a new Wicked prequel. I don't know if it's come out.
Yeah. So, I mean, there is potential here for just like for them to really dive into the Wicked verse. And so, and obviously that's what they're hoping will happen. They'd be stupid to not be aiming for that, right? But I do think that it's a very calculated move in that case then to cut the movie in half at what is considered to be the best point of the whole show.
I like the second half of Wicked.
I will put money down right now that we will be hearing about two. I will even put a number on it. We will be hearing about minimum 2 different projects spinning off from Wicked before the sequel comes out, because they're going to get in while the getting's good, get the money from somebody to make something that is Wicked based before the sequel comes out and cools everybody's jets on this shit.
I mean, you say that. It is currently slated to come out next year. Its release date, so November 21st, 2025.
July. Right. So by June or July, we are going to hear about a greenlit pilot, or we are going to hear about another movie, or we are going to hear about some other project that is going to do this. Maybe another show, maybe another Broadway show. That would be fucking wild. But like by June or July, we are going to hear about, I am putting money down, 2 different projects that spin off from the Wicked verse before we then get to see the sequel in December, and it cools everybody's shit. But by that point, somebody's already signed contracts, right? Ink's already down on paper. So like shit's gonna happen and the ball will be rolling. I think they very meticulously planned this out to throw out the first half, make a bunch of money, get a bunch of like credit out there, do what they can with that in the next year before the second movie comes out, and everybody's just like, maybe this isn't as big as I thought it was.
I mean, I like the second half of Wicked. Act 2 of Wicked is fun, but I think I like it because nobody ever talks about it. And it's also spoilers for Wicked 40 minutes into this episode where we've kind of just been spoiling Wicked. It's when Dorothy shows up. Like, that's the other crazy thing, is that, like, you see that, like, isn't that a thing that happens? Right? Is that Dorothy ends up showing up in the second half of the movie?
I don't know, because that would imply something that I've never heard before about a certain character in this show.
What's that?
Well, her sister in a wheelchair is the one that gets killed in the Wizard of Oz.
Right.
So I never heard that her sister dies in this play, but then again, I mean, and I saw it, so I feel like I would fucking remember it, is what I'm getting at. Is like, but then again, there's a lot of things I don't remember about things that I have seen, so I may be completely erasing from my mind that like that happens in the second half.
Yeah, no, hidden away in the forest, Glinda has given Nissa Rose's shoes to the hostess occupant, Dorothy Gale. It happens in the show. It's Act 2.
Jesus.
Act 2 is when, yeah, exactly. Nissa Rose dying. Does that ever happen in the show? But it definitely, because, spoilers for Wicked, just spoilers for Wicked, the creation of the Scarecrow, Tin Man, and Cowardly Lion, those 3 things happen in Act 1, right? It's one of those things, is Wicked can't be the trope bearer of like going back in time and giving origins to things, right?
Remember
like
the sister dying.
Yeah.
It's so weird. I do remember Dorothy being there, but I don't remember the sister dying. I must have just been completely checked out of that movie. Of that show? Maybe I didn't like Wicked. I might not have liked Wicked.
I love that. So funny to me. Yeah. Hidden away in the forest, Elphaba and Fiyero confess their love for each other, as long as you're mine. Their happiness is interrupted when Elphaba senses Nessa Rose is in danger. She is correct. A host has fallen out of the sky and crushed Nessa Rose to death. Elphaba arrives at the scene, finding Glinda has given Nessa Rose's shoes to the host's occupant, Dorothy Gale. Yeah. So that does happen in the show. It happens right after the song, As Long As You're Mine.
Oh no, I'm not remembering any of this. This is not me remembering. I'm reading it and thinking, I can't figure out. My brain is like in that space right now where like something that has always been true just clicked for you and it like hurts for a second.
Yeah. Siegen, like, did you not know there were Nazis in the second act of Wicked?
Okay, that's it. No more. We're not talking about Wicked anymore.
All right, no, I don't think we can go any better than there. But yeah, so it is. Yeah, that's the thing that happens in the second act. So yeah, that's going to happen in the second movie. Spoilers. And I don't even know. What are we talking about? What else are we going to talk about then? If you don't want to talk about Wicked, and I understand why you don't want to talk about Wicked, because you just had a shocking revelation live here in the taped episode of the Say Report. What do you got? What can you bring us to? Because I have other things I can talk about, but you should drive. Steady your nerves a bit.
I don't know, man. I'm getting ready for the holiday over here. We haven't been doing too much because we're traveling next week. We are getting out of town.
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of like cleaning the house. Also, I was sick last week. That shit sucked.
I know, right? And it's awful. We don't talk about being sick a lot on the show, but yeah, no, it's not great being sick when you can't really do anything. And I mean,
and like especially when you're trying to get ready to like leave for the holiday.
Yeah.
Shit. Yeah. So no, we have not been doing too much on this end. I've been continuing with Brothership. I'm still enjoying my time with that. I still have the same feelings I did before. I feel like it just moves too slow. I think the whole game just moves too slow, and that's really disappointing because there is some really fun stuff in it. I am in love with like what's the Grandpa Radish or Grandpa Beat, whatever the little
I haven't met
name
him
is,
yet.
that I keep like running into.
I have met him. I have met him one time. He's crazy. That character is nuts, and I love him. I do love him because he don't know what's going on at all.
Well, and so like it also the way that it implies some stuff about the connectivity of the world in a game in which it's all about connecting the worlds is I don't know. So like I do think there's some fun stuff in that game, and it's a shame because I do think that it is buried behind some really unfortunately slow parts. Less and less so as I move along. Maybe it's because I'm kind of figuring out more like how to play the game better, and also getting more stuff. The unlocking more abilities and things like that. Did you ever get to the part where you can float? Did you ever learn to float?
No, I never learned to float. I found out about the Great Lighthouse, and it was like, you should head to the Great Lighthouse, or I could go to Twisty Island. And I'm like, let's go to Twisty Island. I want to take care of that part. And then we'll set our course so that when we're done with Twisty Island, we'll be closer to the Great Lighthouse. And then it just didn't work. And I'm like, well, I'm going to stop the game right now, and I will come back to it later. That's going to be a conversation.
There's some brother moves that you learn.
I haven't learned any brother stuff yet, and I was bummed out about that.
Because it takes so fucking long to get to them, but once you get them, it unlocks stuff, and then you can go back and do other things. And like I said, the game is definitely built with those moments for you while the ship is sailing to either choose to speed up the ship and just go where you want to go, or let the ship do its own thing for a while you go back to other islands and complete some stuff. And now that I've got the ability to do that, I'm not having so much downtime, but there's definitely some moments early game where they're like, okay, you want to let the ship just go for a bit? And it's like, well, no, because I still don't have the ability to go back and do anything yet. Luckily, they do eventually give you the speed up ability, but that comes a little too late too. It's the game's pacing is way off, but were they somehow tied up in that From Software acquisition this week?
Acquire, the company that made Mario and Luigi Brothership, is part of that collective of game studios that PlayStation. So we're probably never going to get a game
from this studio for Mario and Luigi ever again anyway.
There's a really good chance that this is their only one, have you played any of the Octopath Traveler games?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, are those slow? Do you find those slow? Because they're the same company.
So no. And because the mechanic of those games, do you know what the hook is of the Octopath Traveler?
It's like Live Alive, right? Where you have 8 different characters, and then they all kind of coalesce as they go down their path.
You can switch between.
Oh, that's awesome!
Like you get to the point where you're like, all right, I've hit kind of a lull with this one, or I'm bashing my head against the wall with this character. I'm not quite sure what to do, so I'm just going to switch over and play this character. So you don't ever have the opportunity for that, right? And so that's one of the things that's been so surprising about playing Mario and Luigi. And part of it is because it feels like they're so used to building that kind of style into the storytelling for a group of characters, with the idea that then you could just go do something else. But in this game, you don't have 7 other stories for you to bounce in and out.
Yeah, it almost feels like, based on the fact that I have gone back, I did go back to Islands and see I still can't do anything. The islands are meant to be the stories that you can kind of jump to, but like it doesn't seem as balanced as well. I mean, that's an interesting way to turn the narrative, right? To take it from jumping to 8 different characters when you get to a thing to like jumping to kind of 8 different stories, or not 8, but however many islands you have available stories where things are still progressing. That's an interesting way to do it. But again, it doesn't seem like it's working for you, and it certainly didn't work for me. Because I'm like, oh, the boat's going to follow this route. I'm on this route anyway. I have to go around before I get to the current I want to be on. Set sail for that current and follow that current, and I'll go dick around on this island. And then I come back and I'm like, but why didn't my boat move? Like, you specifically told me that this is how I should do this.
I cannot express to you how much that is exactly how the game works. I think you were playing a broken version of this.
Yeah, I had an early version of the game. I know that. Like
yes, but this has been your has been your number one ongoing complaint with the game, and I just really want to make sure everybody out there is aware that that's just not how the game works.
The game specifically tells you to do that. I think that's why it was such a head scratcher for me. Is I'm like, well, but I didn't move. Like,
yes, well, Devin, maybe you don't play early versions of games you're not supposed to have your hands on yet.
You don't know I'm not supposed to have my hands on it.
My uncle who works for Nintendo gave it to me.
He gave it to me. Uncle Nintendi gave it to me. Yeah, that's why I stopped, right? I understand that. But I was, no new game November, which is still going well and strong. And it's not a new game if Dale buys it and we play it co-op, right? Dale chose to buy it. Here's the story of what happened yesterday. We went to go to round 1. I don't know if you have any round 1s around you. It's like a Dave and Buster's sort of thing, but it's owned by AMF, so they have like bowling there. It's a bowling alley that we added a Dave and Buster's to, basically, is what round 1 is. I've talked about them before on the show. And we wanted to get one more visit into round 1 before like the winter months where, a 90-minute car ride might not be the smartest thing to do. And it's a 2-hour car ride. I'm making it shorter than it actually, it's a 2-hour drive to get to the nearest round 1. And what we did, we put on, Spotify was like, hey, Devin, here's a list of video game songs you might like based on things you've listened to. And one of the songs that played was the Livin' La Vida Loca cover from Gotham Knights by No Bro. And I don't know anything else about that. Are you familiar? I'm sure you know Livin' La Vida Loca.
Yeah, no, I know that one of the big things with
don't
Gotham,
spoil.
Oh no, wait! I was gonna say Suicide Squad. The video game was that there was some music stuff that people were digging. I didn't realize Gotham Knights had some stuff too.
Gotham Knights had that. That's the only thing I know about it. So what happened was we're in the car for 2 hours. That song plays, and we stop the music. Music's not playing, and we have a discussion about how that song could tie into Gotham Knights, the video game. And we're like, well, maybe like Harley Quinn's the bad guy, or like the big bad, or blah, 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 blah. So we end up looking up the Wikipedia page, and Dale reads from Wikipedia the plot of the game. And she got to a point where I'm like, you need to stop. We just need to play this game. Now, this is a game that like I was kind of excited about, but then was not interested in spending money on, right? We had talked about Gotham Knights. I think it's because there's no co-op, right? Like we couldn't 4-player co-op it, which was a disappointment to me. You have 4 players.
Yeah. Well, but it was what made Suicide Squad stand out, right?
Yeah.
Am I mistaken?
Yeah. That was that. And it felt like sort of the DC version of the Avengers game. And I liked Marvel's Avengers. I know other people didn't, but you had 7 characters from the start, and you could put 4 of them together and complete levels of that game. I think you only had 6 from the start, right? Hawkeye was held back. And even then they did Kate Bishop before they did Clint. So it was only the 6, right? It was Miss Marvel. No, it was 7. It was 7. It's just you unlock Thor and Captain America at the same time. So it only feels like 6. That was you know what? I say that's an interesting choice, but it also kind of speaks to the fact that like we cut corners and rushed out the release of this game. That the whole thing is about getting the Avengers. It's basically Blues Brothers, Marvel's Avengers. We haven't talked about this game enough, is all I'm going to say. For a game that we played as much as we did, is basically Kamala Khan is the Blues Brothers, and she has to get the band back together. and it's fun, but Thor and Captain America come back in the same mission So like well, now I'm not gonna. And then the game forces you to play as Captain America. Thor is such an afterthought in the game. He really is. Like, now that I'm thinking about it, I cannot believe
There's a lot of things that were just kind of afterthoughts in that game. I think that game had a lot of last minute, like, oh yeah, we should also do this. And it's like, okay, but that fucks everything. But they didn't care.
But they didn't give a damn. But yeah, so Marvel's Avengers, really enjoyed that one as a 2020 release. And I looked at Gotham Knight as like, put Gotham Knights as a continuation of that. But then when the co-op, it didn't have 4-player co-op, I'm like, I'm out on this. And then like people said it was boring and all of that, but reading the plot of the game, I was like really interested. And then Dale's like, I'm looking up how much it costs. And it's on sale right now through December 3rd. This is not an ad, for $10.49 on PlayStation. So Dale's like, I'm buying it, and we're going to play it. I'm not going to read the story. We're going to figure out why this song is in the game by playing the game. And that is what I did immediately prior to coming down to the studio to record this episode, is play the opening of Gotham Knights. I still have no idea why there's a lady singing Living La Vida Loca cover associated with the game. The opening of the game is fucking incredible, though.
So this is that weird game that came out after the Batman Arkham, the Rocksteady Batman stuff had kind of wrapped. Right. And then suddenly WB announced there was going to be 2 major new projects going forward. The Arkham guys were actually going to work on Suicide Squad, and there was going to be this Gotham Knights story that nobody could clarify at the time whether or not it was supposed to be in this universe or not. And the opening of the game pretty much establishes that it's not, but it could be if you want it to be.
That's a really good way to put it. Because Ra's al Ghul, who appeared in Arkham City, right? Like, he is a boss that you fight with a gun, because nothing says Batman like, fight Ra's al Ghul with a fucking gun. Oh, Arkham City, I have a complicated relationship with you.
What are you talking about? You do the stealth mission at the top of the tower with him. What do you mean with a gun?
He brings you into his like little world where he's sand people, and you have to, there's 3 circles of like Ra's al Ghul sand things.
Yeah, and so you do just regular Batman fighting with them, and then you do flying challenges to get to the next one. But then you could use your Batman stuff. What are you talking about with a gun?
You get a gun in Arkham City. It's like a stun gun.
You get like the electrical gun.
Yeah, you get the electrical gun. And the way
okay. You don't have like bullets. You're not giving a revolver to like.
No, that's true. You don't have a revolver, but you have the Batman electro stun gun. And there's a thing where you have to shoot through in order to damage him, and then you can pull in and punch him. Like there's the thing I remember.
You have to use a gadget.
But the gadget is a gun. It is shaped like a gun, and you pull a trigger to release bullets that don't
But Batman has had weapons like that since '89, even
Batman.
before that.
Batman has used a gun. Let's just be those people. Batman has used a gun. He's used a gun. That's the thing.
You're the only one who makes it sound like it's weird.
No, fighting Ra's al Ghul with a gun was weird. That was what was weird about it. And then it turned into a really good fight, but like the start of it being, my favorite thing about the Arkham City series in general is the way that Rocksteady asked themselves, how do we make Batman's life a fucking video game? That is the thing I like the most. So like the Scarecrow sections, when it is the most video game shit ever happening, I love them. And then they did that same thing in Arkham City. They're like, well, we can't just do the Scarecrow stuff. All right, so we'll like Ra's al Ghul pulls you into a world of sand, and you have to do target practice in order to beat him. Like, it's just like, that's what sticks out to me are the video game moments, because Batman is not like that, right? When Batman fights Scorpion in Mortal Kombat versus DC, that is an incredible moment, because it is the least Batman moment ever. You know what I'm talking about? I'm sorry.
No, I don't know why these aren't Batman-y moments to you in the grand scheme of Batman.
Because it's more, but then I guess Batman can do fucking anything because he's Batman. Anywho, so Gotham Knights, it totally could, but Ra's al Ghul does not look the same as he did in Arkham City. So like, but again, he's always kind of changing his look up anyway. But it's not Kevin Conroy who's voicing Batman for obvious reasons in the 2022. So it's a whole thing. But Gotham Knights, I'm playing as Jason Todd. I'm not going to play as anyone else if Jason Todd is available. I just have to be that person. And Jason Todd looks so much like Deadpool. There was a moment where I'm like, I'm Deadpool. Because he just looks like...
They make him the heavy in that one, right?
He's
he's
the brute, heavy, and he uses his pistols, right? Which is fun.
He does have guns. He has what I would.
He has actual guns, yeah, and it's really good because he basically gun katas. Like every time you're in battle, he has his guns out, and then like you punch, and it's like I hit you with the butt of my gun, or you can just be shooting. And then I finally learned that you can like aim and shoot, and I've just turned it into a third-person shooter with Jason Todd. So it's been a blast playing Red Dead Redemption. You know what? Red Hood Redemption would have been the better joke there.
There you go.
But I'm having fun, and Dale and I both played the tutorial, and we're gonna co-op it going forward because the tutorial you have to do alone, and then you unlock co-op. But I don't know how I'm gonna feel about this game because you can do 2-player co-op online. They eventually added that. I'm not sure. I
mean, even the fact that there's 2-player co-op is already a blast for me because one of the big things was about this game is that it was going to be a 1-player experience, to my understanding, where you kind of rotated through the characters to do certain things. Like you would hit moments where you needed one character over another and things, and that's fine and dandy, but like I wanted it to be more like a la like a Borderlands style. Like, oh no, I want to be the heavy on the team. Fine, then I'm gonna get to be the mage. I'm gonna get to be the like I wanted that team building aspect to it, kind of like what you're talking about, like where with Avengers, right? Where you would purposely group up with specific people in order to assemble your team, right? Which is what I wanted, and it's cool that they let you at least do it with 2 people.
Yeah. But again, I don't think it was there. And also, based on what we read, because like these were all the like pitfalls before Dale's like, I'm going to spend. I'm like, well, let's see if we can play online. They added 2-player co-op, and I'm all right, that's good. There's also a 4-player co-op mission mode that seems like raids, where like you go up against like Clayface or some other character who's like big and scary.
Shows up? I think that's
Starro is one of them. Yeah,
Starro, right?
Yeah. So like those things exist, and that can be 4-player. And then also you never have to switch your character. So you can main a character throughout the entire game. And that was appealing to me. Because, I mean, I got no problem being Tim Drake or Dick Grayson. I probably shouldn't be saying their names on recorded tape, right? I guess I didn't say who they're associated with, right? Nobody knows. But it's like, but I want to play Jason Todd. I like Jason Todd, and I like the idea of being the Red Hood in a Batman game, right? Like, legitimately, his heavy attacks are just him shooting his guns. And don't get much heavier than that, huh? Like, bullet to the heart! Heavy attack, guys. Yeah. So we've been having fun playing that this morning, and we're going to be doing a little bit more of that. But then also, I got to round 1, right? And it's a 2-hour drive, and then I broke the Castlevania Marbles of Souls machine. And I didn't really break it, but I was the one who called to the attention, this is broken. Somebody needs to fix it. And then I didn't get to play it at all. And most importantly, that's not true. I played one game. I dropped one of the rare cards I need for my collection. And then, like, I pushed it forward, but it wouldn't fall. And that's when I noticed it. They didn't give me the card. Like, they could have given me the card. I won the card. But I'm like, I'll wait till it's fixed and I'll play again and whatever. But they reset all the freaking cards. And, like, I didn't want to ask. Like, that seems weird, but, like, that machine was very broken when I came to it yesterday. But, you know, those are things that happen. But you know what? This is a good thing. Are you familiar with Voltron? That's how Devon Decker started the sentence on the 24th of November in the year of 2024. Sejan, have you ever heard of Voltron?
Like, as a concept, or like, is there like a new movie I should be aware of?
So it's the 40th anniversary of Voltron. It's the 40th anniversary of pretty much every property from when we were kids. Like 1984 is where a lot of them came together. G.I. Joe, Transformers, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Voltron, Ghostbusters. 40 years, right? It's crazy. It just flew by. So for the 40th anniversary of Voltron, they put out Voltron again. Playmates put out another Voltron. It's 16 inches tall. And the way to get it is that you have to buy the 5 separate lions. Now, the Black Lion is a premium, so he's a little bit more expensive. And then the other 3, they're like $20. Now, the problem is they were, by all accounts, a Target exclusive, and nobody could ever find them. These released in March of this year. The day before the election, as I was like driving around the world, I stopped at an out-of-the-way Target, and for the first time ever, I laid my eyes on the blue and red lions. I had never seen anything but the Black Lion from Voltron. And I'm like... and
the expensive one. Nice.
Yeah, right? How's that working out for you? And since then, Playmates has released a set where you can get all of them, but it's more expensive than if you were able to find them out in the wild, which is not great, right? Like,
What's the point of that? What is the idea there?
Yeah. So I'm like,
tax, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's a convenience tax, and the packaging is a little bit bigger, and it does have unique artwork on it and stuff like that. So I mean, it's weird, but if I were able to find these out in the wild, I could have built Voltron in March, but then in September they did these big box sets, which has led some people to believe that they never even released that first set. But now I'm living proof because I found the blue and the red lion. So I buy the blue and the red lion, and I'm like, I'm not going to open these unless I can find the yellow and green lions. There's no reason to open up these Voltron figures until I can find all 5 lions. And then yesterday, while I was in Western Massachusetts for round 1, and I could not play Castlevania, so I'm like, I guess I'll just check this Target nearby. I found the green and yellow lions.
There you go.
I'm very happy to have Voltron. I have not built him yet, but I that was an exciting moment for me. And then since we're talking about Playmates, Splintered Fate, I finally completed my Steam run of the game. And I may have gotten to the point where I'm done with Splintered Fate until that mythical DLC that they keep threatening to release. In fact, vamp for a little bit, Siege, while I see if there's a release date for the Splintered Fate DLC. Because
oh, man. I'm glad that you got so much enjoyment out of it. This is a game that started as like an iOS game, right? It started as like
it was an Apple Arcade game.
Apple Arcade, right? Yeah, and so it just didn't. I never quite felt like it had a lot of meat on its bones at first, and we talked about how well it does unlock once you get further and further into it. But for somebody that does not love those types of games in the first place, it takes a lot for me to really kind of latch on to those kinds of roguelite beat 'em ups. It's just not. It's not my favorite genre. It moved too slow. It's another one that moved too slow. Maybe that's just where I'm at right now with video games. I just need something that's coming at me quick and fast with what its point is, because I'm feeling the same way about Mario and Luigi too, and I'm wondering if it's a me thing.
On Splintered Fate, it definitely moves too slow. It still moves too slow. At the point where I am at, it is moving too slow for me, and I'm mad at that. I'm disappointed at that, because I had this revelation on Thursday that the way it's written about earning bandanas, it's written as when you complete a game as a turtle with a portal, with new portals active. It specifically says, all right, so every time you beat it with the portal of poppers, which makes everything in the shops twice as expensive, you're not going to get it. But that first time you beat it with the portal of poppers active, you'll earn the bandana for the turtle you beat it as. That's how it communicates to you, is that all right, so as Raphael, you beat it with the portal of the foot. That makes the foot stronger. You got the red bandana. You earned a red bandana. Because eventually, in order to purchase upgrades, you need however many bandanas. Right now I need 4 Raphael bandanas in order to upgrade the rest of Raphael's stuff. And Raphael's stuff, there's, as much as there's the inspiration upgrades that you get, there are some that are universal for all of the turtles once you've completed Shredder. So one that Raphael unlocks is its confidence, and if you can beat a room without taking damage, it adds to your stats. And as you level it up, initially it only adds 1 to your stats, but it can get up to 3. Add it to every stat every time you beat a room without getting hit. That's a huge boon in a roguelike game, right? Where He's just going to be fighting stuff. So I went through as Raphael 3 times last night because I'm sitting at 3 Raphael bandanas. Each of them I completed with a new portal that I had never beaten the game with. I got 0 bandanas. I don't know what this game wants me to do. Like, I'm making it harder on myself. I'm increasing the heat level, to use Hades terminology, and I'm not seeing the rewards that you, the game, are promising me.
Right.
Why do I want to continue to give you my time? What am I supposed to do? Like, you cannot make rewards for that stuff. Like, maybe you'll get it. Like, because there's no incentive to keep playing at some point. 3 times. I cleared it 3 times with multiple portals, including ones that I had never completed the game with. And it's just like, yeah, no, you got the regular stuff that you get for beating the game. Shit out of luck. Do it again. Make it harder on yourself.
Oh, man.
Like, and that's just frustrating.
Like RNG, right? RNG, like, should not be employed in every instance, right?
And even if it was like, it's the fact that, like, I didn't even get like an astral heart or any of the other like rare rewards. Right? This is a single player game. It does not have a storefront where I could be some schmuck who pays for it, right? I should get one of the possible rewards if I've turned on the difficulty spike. Like, what? Like, what's the point of it? And one of them I got through. I didn't die. I didn't use a single revive. I finished the game with 5 revives. I took no deaths the whole run. And, like, that should be rewarded with something. No, there's no reward. I had poppers and scarcity on. So in addition to having to pay double for everything, I only had 2 options anytime I got a reward. And I got through it without a single death. And I got, yeah, here you go. Here's your usual reward. Please come play us again.
Yeah, what's the incentive for playing that way at all then? Like, why would I not just make it more fun?
Like, I want to have fun and I want to beat the game. But the only way to get those is to activate those portals. And I have them active and I don't know. And then because it's Steam, like, the only achievements I have left are tied to, I've beaten it with all of the portals. And now it's like, beat the game with the War Staff, which makes everything 100% stronger. And then beat the game with the War Staff and all portals activated. And it's just like, this is just incentive to make it harder. And I know that for some people, like, that's what it should be. But, like, you have proven to me that even if I do the hard stuff, you're not going to give me the rewards that I have earned for doing the hard stuff.
Right. The only reward is popping that achievement right on Steam, and like that dopamine that you'll get for that moment when that flashes on screen, and then you'll never look at it again.
Right. And but also, like, there's no dope. There should be a loop, right? Like, going through, even if I didn't get 3 bandanas, right? Getting 1 bandana as Raphael, I would then power things up, and then I would challenge myself again. 3 runs of the game. Not a single bandana doing the stuff that I'm supposed to do to get those bandanas. Like, I mean, have you dug into this? Like, have you searched to see if anybody else has had this problem? Is it maybe that a certain setting's not on, or is it a bug? Like, nobody knows anything about this game. This game it's a Ninja Turtles game, right? Which is the craziest thing about it, right? Because apparently there's just no, like, that Ninja Turtles Mutant Unleashed game, the one from the movie from last year, I have not gone back to it because of just how buggy a mess it was. I finally had an update download this morning while I was going to play Gotham Knights. So we'll see if they fixed any of the problems. But there was no incentive to keep playing that game at all. Like, I was not interested at all. Like, I'm just like, this is not fun. Like, what the hell? And then, so Splintered Fate, right? Like, it's supposed to be a roguelike, right? Everybody says that it's like Hades Light. And it really is, right? But it's also Hades Light plus cooperative play, which really does make the game more fun. Playing the game with people is a whole incentive to keep playing this game. Unfortunately, I had all my friends buy it on Nintendo Switch earlier in the year. I should have waited for the Steam release because it is more stable. Though, in searching for anybody else who had, like, not getting reward issues, I have found that the cooperative play on Steam, not the best. Which is also disappointing, because I get it on Nintendo Switch. like that means that it's on their end. It's whatever servers that they're using, right? And it started as a freaking Apple Arcade exclusive with like the co-op as part of it. I don't know. I'm just complaining. I'm yelling at clouds right now. Literally yelling at clouds. But, you know, one of the best parts about any sort of, like, I don't know how much you've played Hades, right? Some spoilers for Hades. Eventually, you're able to, like, synergize between the gods who give you their blessings. And that becomes a really fun, in-depth part of that game, is finding out, like, which gods can synergize together. And that's a blast. I have a blast doing. I should start playing Hades. I should put down Ninja Turtles and start playing Hades. Sorry, I'm talking to myself here.
Honestly, man, you should get in on Hades too.
I have Hades too. I bought the pre-release because I didn't want to like run out. But it's not deck verified, or it wasn't deck verified at the time, so I was like iffy on playing it. But I played that freaking Hollow Live game that's free. It's like a Vampire Survivors like. And that game's awesome because it also has a little bit of twin stick aiming, but it's nice. But only on a couple of the weapons. So like you have some control. That game's been a blast for a free game. Yeah, I should just play Hades and do that. But the nice thing about Hades is when you find that synergy, you have like a notebook and you can look at things so you can see, oh, it's because I had Zeus's shield and Poseidon's attacks, and I leveled them both up, and then those two synergized to give me, like, a shield that, like, creates whirlpools, and my attacks also had lightning damage. Yeah, there's nothing like that in Splintered Fate. Like, so there's synergy. There's definitely synergy, because the best synergy in the game is water and astral light powers, as opposed to astral dark powers. Water and astral light gives you the ability so that every time you damage an enemy, you gain 2 HP. I know I've talked about this before, and I'm sorry. And that is just like a game changer in a game like this. Because all you're doing is damaging enemies. And so if that can also heal you, it breaks the game. And that's why it's super difficult to get. Like, you need 4 different astral powers, including light attacks and shimmering shield, and at least 3 water powers, including water attacks and water dash. And then some of them, if you have it, it means that it will never show up because it adds a whole other thing. But the problem with Splintered Fate is because it's just kind of a cash grab, right? It's like a Ninja Turtles licensed game semi-cash grab that has these wonderful mechanics, but then there's no way to check like, oh, I got this mixed power last run. Let's see what I did to get that. So like going forward, I can like aim for it. Hades sort of makes it like Pokemon, where it's like, oh, you found this rare power combination. Look in your Pokedex and you can see what triggered it happening. Splintered Fate don't give a shit about that. And then online, if you read the lists from people, all of it's conjecture. There might be combinations of powers that have not yet been discovered. And that's insane to me for a game that's been out for 2 years. Because the game doesn't tell you, right? Like, yeah. I should just start playing Hades. I'm gonna, listeners, there are people who listen to this show all the time. Lance, I'm super happy that you started out on the Crow stuff. I'm also very jealous because I wish I could watch all the Crow movies and I've not just seen the first and the remake. But I also found the show, and I really want to watch Stairway to Heaven, but I want to watch the other stuff first. These people who listen to the show and contact me about the stuff I'm saying, remind me to delete Splintered Fate and install Hades on my Steam Deck, because I'm just doing nothing in Splintered Fate right now except for frustrating myself. And that's just a fact, because I want to get everything, and I did it. But once you cleared it 8 times, spoilers, you save Splinter, and then there's no more content. And they keep talking about content, but that content has yet to come. And until that content comes, this game is dead. There's no reason, there's no incentive to keep playing it. And there are better dopamine delivery systems out there. Sorry, I had to get that. I had to get that off my chest.
I mean, it's been a long time coming because, like I said, I've never really fully clicked with that game. Like, I do think that there's fun to be had with it, but at the end of the day, I just don't think it's a completely well-made game. I think there's a lot of issues with it, and so like I am not surprised that you're feeling this way about it because a lot of this is what I've been feeling all along about it. So
I wish that like I could get that stuff out of the way in the beginning because my no new games November, this is the only game that I've played is Splintered Fate. Now I want to try to beat Castlevanias this week. I got Gotham Knights I'm going to try to do. I think I want to finally like buckle down and do Thousand Year Door because I still haven't finished that. I started it and then went no further with it. So like, and what? It's the 24th, right? So I have 6 days to try to complete it. We'll talk a little bit about the next episode, but definitely tune in to the December 9th episode of the Say Report and see how good I did on my goal to maybe complete no new games in November. It's not looking great for Devon Decker, but hey, there's still time. But that brings me to TV lately that I've been watching, and I'm just openly angry at the television. Like I mean,
because there's not enough new Yellowstone for you.
Oh man, the new Yellowstone has sucked. Let's just be like, hi everybody, Devon Decker here. 2 episodes of Yellowstone season 5 part 2 have aired. Spoilers for Yellowstone in case you haven't seen it. You're not gonna watch, right, Sejim? Right?
No, not. I don't care if you spoil it. Let me put it that way.
That's fair. John Dutton, Kevin Costner, killed himself in the first episode of Yellowstone season 5 part 2. And there are air quotes around that killed himself. They ruled it a suicide. He was alone in the bathroom with a gun in his hand when they found him, but pretty certain that somebody killed him and made it look like a suicide. And he was the governor of Montana. So, like, that's a difficult thing to do. It's also kind of like a weird thing politically to have as the start of your second half of your final season of your show. Is to have a governor assassinated.
Yeah, it's that wild thing, though, that when somebody needs to leave the show, they this is the first thing that they swing to. Remember when Cal Penn left House and they did the whole suicide episode with him?
Yeah,
man, it's just a wild choice to just like dive into. Let's do this like semi-suicide possible mystery instead. It's like wow.
Well, the other thing is that they're doing these flashbacks to 6 weeks prior to this happening, and there is no definitive like reveal if you're in the past or in the future. Now, when I'm following it, I'm getting it, but my parents are like, you need to tell us when was happening 6 weeks ago and when it's happening like in their present. And I'm like, I can do that. I will do that for you. Because the show isn't telling you. Like, it is pretty like, and when you consider who their target audience is, that's pretty anti-viewer to not like at least say present day or however many weeks ago this was happening.
Or like grayscale it or something, like make everything sepia tone if it's the past.
Like one time it said 6 weeks earlier, and then like I'm like, oh, so we're in the past now because we're back in Texas and all this. Nothing, like he's still alive, even though Kevin Costner, it was getting so delayed making this part of the show that he wanted to make Horizon. Good choice there, Mr. Costner. Maybe it was a good choice. I mean, is he getting his second movie? Do we know?
No. Didn't they? I think they even pulled the sequel. I like they're definitely not doing 3 and 4.
I know 3 and 4 are done. I don't.
But I think 2 even got the plug pulled on it.
Yeah, maybe you can check that while I'm talking about the Yellowstone issue.
You let us know what's going on with old Mr. Dutton.
So that whole thing happened. So the death of him and now his 3 kids, like, they can't afford the ranch because of the taxes on it. And, like, it's not interesting. Like, the nice thing was watching John Dutton fucking Kevin Costner fight for this ranch. And the first 2 episodes back have just been, like, talking. And nothing has happened. And I understand that like sometimes that can be good, but when you think about the fact that like there are only 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 7 episodes of your show left to waste 2 of them just talking is like fucking batshit. It's what I thought was going to happen with Cobra Kai, where like, oh, they're going to finish off this tournament with this second set of episodes, and one of the last 5 episodes is going to be like, just like, man, remember when we were in that karate tournament? But I have spoilers for Cobra Kai in an episode that you're going to listen to next week. So we'll you got time, you have a week to watch Cobra Kai before I spoil it. But yeah, no, Yellowstone, you'd think that Yellowstone would be something I'm excited about. I'm going to watch it tomorrow, and I'm just going to be like, oh, okay. Like, all right, more Yellowstone. I hope they have something good coming. But their reaction so far to Kevin Costner not being there has not inspired confidence. The best thing...
So it does look like Horizon 2 has technically already been finished and actually went to a film festival in September.
Oh, wow, good for him.
But it definitely had its release pulled from theaters. So it is a completed movie that people have laid eyes on, but there's a good chance it's not going to come out, or at the very least not in a theater space. We might see it released to like a streaming platform.
Yeah. Which interesting thing to remember just about Wicked Part 2, right? The fact that Wicked was released just as Wicked and not as Wicked Part 1 or Wicked Act 1, there's a chance we ain't ever going to see that Wicked 2.
I mean,
I
don't know what they're doing titling wise with it, because
you call it Wicked. I think I'm going to see Wicked. I think I'm going to see all of Wicked.
Yeah.
So Yellowstone has been a little. The best part was Piper Parabo's character. Like, I had forgotten that she existed, and then you see, I just love Coyote Ugly so much that you bring Piper Parabo in. I can't fight the moonlight, Sijin. I'm right there with it. And then Sijin, and you're going to hear more about this in something that we're going to talk about a little bit later in the episode as we wrap things up, recommended that I watch The Middle. And I've been watching The Middle, and the last 3 episodes of season 5 of The Middle might have been enough for me to stop watching The Middle if I didn't care so much about that family. They were 3 just uber frustrating episodes of television. And I mean, it's one of those things where like I can watch Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. In fact, I'm going to watch Planes, Trains, and Automobiles because it's Thanksgiving week, right? But those movies where like the people are driving 30 miles and it takes them an entire calendar year to do it, they never sit well with me. And CJ can attest to that, because if Devon Decker's on a road trip, we make that road trip work. Even if we're outside of Talladega and the wheel comes off the damn car, we make that trip work. We still got ribs. Just frustrating. The first one, I will share one part of it, right? Because this is it. It's the hand on a hard body. We threatened to do a hand on a hard body Say Report episode like years and years ago. It's probably never going to happen. I'm sorry, right? Say Report promises are broken all the time. And that was when like we should do one of these things.
Did we say we were going to do it for a car? What did we say?
No, we just said we were going to have one. I don't know if I would do it for a car, right? It'd be a shit car, right? But it's an episode where the daughter, Sue Heck, right? Kind of the main protagonist of the show as it progresses. She wants a car because she's 16 and she got her license. So she does a hand on a hard body contest and she wins it. And then she's like, I want a new car. And then Brian Doyle Murray's like, no, read the fine print. And the fine print is like barely visible on the sign. And it's you win a new car trip to Disney. And like that was like, it's a car trip. It's not even
a car trip. What the fuck
is that? Trip? Right? Like it's just such a stupid thing. And I'm so frustrated because like you want Sue Heck to win and she just won and then she still loses. And then I'm talking about all 3 of them. Fuck it. The next episode they drive down to Disney World because they won this trip and they're like, we're going to make the best out of a bad situation. And I mean, since it's an ABC show, Sue being like a teenager, she has a jar of saving up to get to Disney World. So like, even though she doesn't get her car, all of her money in her Disney World jar gets to go into her new car jar, and she still gets to go to Disney World, right? So they drive down to Disney World, and then when they get there, and it takes them forever. They go like 5 hours out of their way because the youngest son, Brick, has an online girlfriend, and he's like, we're going to kind of be near there, so I'd like to meet her. Like, what the fuck? And at least like she turned out to actually be a 12-year-old, and Brick gets his first kiss, and there are some victories in this episode. But then they finally get to Disney World, and they give their tickets, and they're like, these tickets are actually for Disneyland. And that made me so mad, Sejin. Like, holy fuck, I'm so mad. I even went back to see, and they win a new car trip to Disney. They never said Disneyland or World. So, like, they're there. And then the last episode of the season 5, the guy's like, we've never had this happen before. No one's ever gone to the wrong park, but we're going to take care of you. So they get to get into Disney World, and thank goodness, right? Thank goodness that they're taken care of. And they're given a suite and all of this. But then they keep getting like hurt or sick, and they don't get to go on any of the rides at Disney World. And it's just like, this is frustrating. This has just been 3 episodes and frustrating. And I was mad. I was upset. Season 6 started good, though. Sue finally got her braces off, and Richard Kind is her orthodontist. So a lot of wins for me. But it's been a time with the middle. I'm going to just be honest with you. Yeah. And then, you know, I watched Fire Country this morning, and like literally, I understand, oh, it's cute that those little baby eagles are in this tree, but a fucking forest fire is coming. We have to do what we can to stop the forest fire from destroying the town. Like, and they're like, but they're a protected species, we can't move them. Do you know what ended up happening, Sejin? They ended up moving the eagles. They ended up moving the damn eagles. Even though they're a protected species, we can't do it. It, like, the fire is all around them, and then someone climbs up and gets them. And it's like, you know what, 3 hours ago, you could have climbed up and got them. We could have cut the proper line, as opposed to the more difficult line on, like, rocky, craggy stuff. Saved this town, saved the eagle tree, and then put the eagles back. Like, you did, it was so frustrating. And then the last one.
That's weird to me, because there must be rules in place for that sort of thing in the real world, right?
Yes, like that. It's so crazy. And then like, so Walker from Walker Texas Ranger, the new one on CW, Jared Padalecki, he's now in Fire Country. I've been waiting. Fire Country is a constant struggle for me, but I knew that Walker was coming. Finally shows up in the 5th episode. There's only been 6 episodes in season 3. Alongside him came Trey. I can't think of the actor's name right now, but like his partner from Walker, he's also in the show as one of the other guys, like estranged brother. So like basically Walker was canceled on the CW, but has been resurrected in Fire Country. And I'm down for that. Like, I'm totally down for that. And he, like, the fire is coming, right? Like, he's like, we have ashes falling. Like, we have to do this. I know you set this boundary, but, like, we have to cut some of this, like, fallen brush and move some of this fallen brush, because we're just asking for the fire to come this way if we don't move it. And, like, the incident commander's like, no, you can't do that. That's why the boundary's here. And he's like, we need to change. This fire acted differently than we thought it was going to. And it's like, you know, he's right. Like, fighting a fire, it's really sad about the little eagles. If the little baby eagles die, I understand that. But, like, it's fire. It's fire, and people live here. And, like, we can't let people lose their homes so that 2 little baby eagles can live.
But my point is that we can't touch them. They're a protected species. I feel like that rule gets to be bent a little bit when there is a fire coming through that's going to destroy their habitat. Like, there are rules about protecting the habitat that I'm sure supersede anything about we cannot physically interact with this thing at this time. Like, that is nonsense to me. That it's the we can't touch the it takes the word of the law to the fucking letter of like we can't even touch these things because they're protected species, and it's like no. They're a protected species, so primarily your job is to protect
them, right?
Right.
And well, so the whole episode prior to the fire breaking out, like everybody in the town was watching a live feed of a camera that was put up at the nest to guess when the eggs would hatch, and the eggs hatch, and the mother and father eagle were not there. So they have this whole motherfucking like Star Trek. Let's explain away why we can't save the eagles. They're like, well, they haven't had a chance yet to imprint on their mother and father. So if we move the eagles, then when the parents come back, they'll reject them. And then they still moved the eagles, and then they put the baby eagles back, and then they show the mother and the father eagle come back. And I'm like, now here is where you have the payoff, and those parents peck those baby eagles to death, right? Don't fucking give me a fucking speech.
Fucking terrible.
Like, it was just so frustrating. I'm like, no, you save, if you're really like, they are an endangered species. Bald eagles are an endangered species. Save the babies, and then we'll do what we have to do with these two babies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's wild to me. Anyway,
yeah,
it's one of those tropes that you see in movies and television all the time, where they like to pull out the protected species concept as if like doing something to keep them safe would somehow violate that concept.
Yeah, we can't feed them. They have to learn how to feed themselves. You think maybe this is why they're dying? Because they don't know how to eat, Tom? What the hell? But we want to talk about birds that frustrated me, right? Siegen, I'm about to create a paradox, and I'm apologizing in advance for the paradox I'm creating. But the good news is you're not going to have to hear me talk about this show again, possibly ever, but definitely not until March 6th of 2025. This show just had its fall finale after 8 episodes, and it is fully not coming back until March of 2025. We talking about Dr. Odyssey, episode 8, The Quackers. Do you know what cruise ducks are, Siegen? This is where this conversation starts, is if you know what cruise ducks are.
No, I have no idea what a cruise duck is.
Okay, so this new trend that has emerged, and it seems to be post-COVID. If it happened beforehand, I was never aware of it. Certainly wasn't a thing that was happening on cruise ships when I was working on them. And yet, they still pulled a page from the Devon Decker journals for this episode. Ryan Murphy, please return my journals. I half expect to get a phone call being like, all right, we worked through your journals for the first 8 episodes. What do you got for us for episode 9? We have until March, but we got to get a move on. Anywho, cruise ducks, people bring rubber ducks with them on board cruise ships and hide them like Easter eggs. And you think this,
yeah. I thought you meant like living ducks. All right.
No. Yeah, Joey and Chandler bringing their ducks on cruises.
Okay, but it's a rubber duck.
So it's rubber ducks.
I mean, people are always weird about rubber ducks. Rubber ducks are like
they're a huge thing.
Yeah,
but it jumped to cruise ships, and it's this whole thing like you've been quacked and people do it. So of course, if you're doing a cruise ship set show in 2024, where Carnival Cruise Lines literally just created a new mascot that is the cruise duck. I cannot believe that. Like that, as somebody who worked for Carnival Cruise Lines, I'm a little mad that the guy, it was the smokestack guy. I don't remember what his name was, but they had him as the mascot for such a long time, and he has been superseded by the cruise duck. There is no greater issue going on in not communism, what capitalism today than the way that corporations react so quickly to the whims of their consumers, right? Tying yourself to a trend that is already like 4 to 5 years old at this point. Like, and now after being so against them, like Carnival Cruise is like, please do not hide ducks on board the ship. It causes issues. Because like they can get into the mechanics and stuff like that, right? Like they'll fall down into areas they're not supposed to go, and it makes people go to places they're not supposed to go to hide them.
That's the bigger thing that I see is that like you're encouraging people to be sneaking around on your ship. I don't think that's something any company would be in approval of.
Yeah, well, and then like Don Johnson there, he's got a whole thing. He's like, they found ducks in the engine room. They did not find ducks in the engine room. I'm gonna just tell you, it is almost impossible as a non-crew or staff member to get to the engine room of any ship. It is protected. But then he's like, but they found them in lifeboats. I believe that they could have found them in lifeboats. That one does not surprise me. But also, you're not supposed to be fucking around with the lifeboats, right? So, like, he brought all this stuff. But what it was a charter of people who hide cruise ducks, which that, first of all, doesn't make sense, right? It's just supposed to be a thing that any guest can do. So the fact that it was a chartered ship of all quackers, like, right out the pocket, right? Just so bullshit out the pocket. And then, this is where the Devon Decker part comes in. All of the crew and staff were encouraged to participate in the hiding of the ducks. So on what was supposed to be their day off, they went to the beach. They always go into the fucking beach when they're not on the ship. And they all had to paint up their own ducks and hide them. And then whoever found the most ducks, and it could be a crew, staff, or guest, would win fabulous prizes. So I thought I was safe in the duck one, right? I'm like, we finally moved past stuff that Devon Decker dealt with. Sejan, have I ever told you the story of Silly Band's hospitality?
No. What? No.
Okay, so about a month into my first...
Who is Silly Band, and why was he so kind?
Well, you know what silly bands are, right? Before we go any further?
No.
Okay.
No,
Sejan was not in high school at the turn of the 2010s. Silly bands, so I guess what everybody's learning about the 2010s today. Silly bands,
jelly bracelets?
They're kind of like jelly bracelets, but what they are, so they're just thin little like elastics, but they make shapes, right? If you're not wearing it and you hold it in your hand, it'll be like Phineas or Ferb, right? Because they had a silly band.
You could win them at like Dave & Buster's and stuff if you had like they were like the cheapest things you could get.
They were the cheapest things you could get there. But also stores like Justice or Claire's, they had like unique licensed tie-ins where you'd buy like a bag of 10 or 20 of them, and it's like, look, it's the cast of Wizards of Waverly Place. It's Phineas and Ferb. It was a big thing. It's Frozen, right?
It's Selena Gomez.
Yeah. So like that whole thing, and they also had them for like just regular stuff, right? Like this, it's a horse, it's a broom, right? And then you'd wear it, and it looks like a regular bracelet, but then you're like, check it out when I take off this bracelet. It's a rubber duck. So my first contract, about a year into it, about a month into it. The cruise director's like, we're going to do something new and different called Silly Band's Hospitality. After this entertainment meeting, everybody is going to be given 10 Silly Bands. And then when you witness one of your fellow staff members providing excellent hospitality, you take one of your bands and give it to them. And after 2 weeks, whoever has the most will win $100. This is a real thing that happened at a job that I worked in international waters. I cannot stress to you enough that this is a real thing that happened. And what happened was I would like have to go set up the band in like public spaces. And while I'm setting up a PA, doing sound check and stuff, I'm like the only person that people see. So while I'm doing that, I had to be hospitable. So after the first week, everybody in the band, right, and that's like a 7-piece band, and then a couple of like 3 or 4-piece bands, just gave me all of their silly bands. Because they're like, nobody's going to do it better than you. You're setting this up and you're not getting mad at people who are stepping in your way. Just take these silly bands. because nobody wanted it. Like, nobody wanted to participate in it. So it was just here, just take this bullshit away from me. And, like, honestly, you're hospitable all the time. So then after a week, they stopped the contest because he's like, Devon already won. I've seen his room. It's full of silly bands. And I'm like, I'm not trying to do it. Everybody's just giving them to me. He was so mad that I broke his little game. But the fact that the crew had to participate in the duck thing, all I could think about was Silly Band's hospitality and how fucking stupid it was. And like, we have to do our jobs. Why are you adding a game to this?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I got $100 for it.
We switched systems at work a while back into like a brand new like account system, and for some reason that was going to be a nightmare. And for some reason they thought in order to ease the pain, they were going to turn it into a game where every time we worked with an account, we needed to mark down what state it was from, and like the first person to hit like all 50 states won a prize. And like there was like, if you only hit 4 regions, there was like a level 2 prize. But like trying to do that on top of actually just doing our job was just like, no. So I don't know. I don't think anybody did it. Like I never heard what happened with it. So as far as I know, nobody ever participated in it.
Well, like, I mean, like going back to that, like Best Buy, there was a time where they're like, you want to do handoffs, right? I worked in the media section, and here's the secret of Best Buy, though it's not the secret anymore. The media section exists as the bait to get people into Best Buy. And then what you're supposed to do if you're in the media department is not as fun as you think it is, selling video games and movies and albums and stuff, is you're supposed to talk to those people, identify other electronics issues that they are having in their lives, and pass them off to another department. And I was really, really good at that. I was exceptionally good at that. However, I never filled out the raffle ticket whenever I did it. So our department got like chewed out for having no entries in the raffle. And like, it was at like a big store-wide meeting. And they're like, what do you, and then the other departments were like, what do you mean they don't have any entries? Devon gave me 5 customers just yesterday from it. And they're like, but he didn't fill out any raffle tickets. And I'm like, because it's such a stupid, like, involved process. I have to fill out the raffle ticket, and then I have to go to the person who I handed the customer off to, and they have to sign off on it, and then they have to mark. I'm like, I have to work, right? Do you want me actually handing people off, or do you want me filling out raffle tickets my entire shift?
Exactly.
Like, like to the point where, like, the Magnolia, right? Like, those guys, they bought me lunch every day that I worked because I filtered so many people over to them, to their high-end.
They were like a store within a store,
yeah,
right?
they were a store within a store, but they still a Best Buy brand, right? But they wanted to make it that way. But, you know, in the media section, I'm talking to a guy who's got 3 cell phones and he's buying Apollo 13. I'm like, what are you watching that on, right? Like, I imagine the flat screen, but how's your sound system? And he's like, honestly, I don't really think about it. I'm like, you might want to talk to the people over in the Magnolia section. Could I bring you over to an associate? And he's like, yeah, that sounds good. And that guy walked out of there with $5,000 worth of product. And they're like, yeah, you just keep doing this and we'll take care of you. I didn't care about raffle shit. I could do the job. And then I was named the stage manager at URI, and I quit the job. And the manager was like happy to see me go because he's like, you're not a team player. You don't fill out the raffle tickets. But then the assistant manager's like, yeah, so here's my personal number. If you ever want a job at Best Buy again, you just give me a call. Because fuck him, you're good at this job. You just don't play the game. And playing the game is the problem. Back to Dr. Odyssey with the duck stuff. In addition to all these quackers being on board, I can't think of the actor's name. He's Lake Bell's father in the movie In a World. I'm going to look that up, and that's how I'm going to tell you what this actor's name is. Fred Melamed. Fred Melamed played like the male of the married female-male couple who were the head of the Quackers, which, like, that's another thing. It's not like some huge movement that has it. It's just a thing that people do on social media. It's not like, so he did, and he had pica. Do you know what pica is? Are you familiar with pica?
Like a disease?
It's a disease where it's like, it says like a mental disorder where you eat things that are not food.
Okay.
So this guy, Fred
Yeah.
Melamed, he's going around the ship. He's eating pennies. He's eating screws.
Yeah, it shows up on My Strange Addiction all the time.
Yeah.
Like that guy like ate a mattress or some shit.
Right, exactly. So that whole thing, and it started with paper and that. So like, I had just heard people talking about Dr. Odyssey because the 7th episode with John Stamos was the gay week. Like it was a gay cruise, and all like everybody came out to talk about it, right? It's Ryan Murphy doing that stuff again. Like Twitter lit up talking about Dr. Odyssey after gay week, which was crazy because that's what they called it. They're like, it's gay week on the Odyssey. And I'm like, okay, that seems thumbs up. And John Stamos played Don Johnson's much younger homosexual brother, who, as it turns out, was in a with three-way. Like, I don't know. Is throuple accepted? Like, I don't ever like that term, but I don't know if it's accepted parlance in the polyamorous.
Throuple is the term for it. Yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you, Sajin. I appreciate it. I was like, a three-way polyamorous relationship is what I was gonna say. With Max from Call Me Cat.
You could also say that if you got the time, I guess.
All right, well, regardless. With Max from Call Me Cat, and that was exciting because I liked that actor a lot, so to see him getting work again. And also Brad from The Middle was another homosexual on board the Gay Week cruise, which I haven't gotten there yet, and I hope they never actually make that kid gay. Like, that's a joke in The Middle that has not aged well, is that Sue's first boyfriend is so gay and he's the only one who doesn't know it. I don't love that bit. I'm just going to admit that. But so after that, so the Quackers Cruise, everybody's saying how campy Dr. Odyssey is. It's such a campy show. And then, like, meanwhile, Fred Melamed's eating all this food and they had to do, like, an emergency endoscopy to pull out 18 items from his stomach. And it's like, this is, like, for real medical drama stuff, right? Like, I'm a little gross.
Now, here's the thing.
Yeah.
I'm confused. He has pica. This is a thing that he deals with all the time in his life. Why did this suddenly happen? Like, was he like in a heightened state of like stress or something, and so was doing things inappropriate? Like, what made this any different than the rest of his life dealing with this disease?
I have no idea. Well, they didn't know that he had it. Like, so he's clearly had it for a while because, like, as they get into it, he passed out in the hallway. So then Dr. Odyssey and his nurses...
it's not like he is aware that he has this thing that he is telling people, I have pica, and he's like eating a penny. Okay. Right. I misunderstood.
It's like a secret thing that Dr. Odyssey discovers that he has going on. And they do surgery. For the show that the first episode, they're like, we're not allowed to do surgery while we're in open water. They do a lot of surgery in open water. I'm just going to say that. But like, that's like a real serious thing. And they get the 18 stuff out of him. And then like, he's nosediving in the middle of the night. And they're like, we need to open him up. We need to see if we missed anything or if there's any perforations. And the captain had hid a golden duck. That was like Willy Wonka's golden ticket. Turns out he hid it in this dude's colon. Not on purpose. It's because Fred Melamed picked it up and ate it. But yeah. So they pulled the golden duck out of his digestive tract after showing a bunch of like necrotic intestine and bowel. Like, it was not campy at all. And I wasn't expecting that in the duck episode. But then it's also Dr. Odyssey, the first broadcast show that had a threesome on it. And it turns out that Philippa Sue's Avery, she's pregnant after that threesome. Now, I am super fucking happy that they talked about the fact that they use condoms, right? It's not like, oh, we're all doctors and nurses, but we raw dogged it for our perfect threesome in this moment. It was condom malfunction, and she's the only people that she's been with are those two. So one of them is the father, and that is where we're leaving it before we come back in March of 2025. And I'm also happy that they had a frank discussion about abortion as an option. Like, but yeah, like, I don't know.
Ryan Murphy, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, it shouldn't be surprising from Ryan Murphy, but it's one of those things where, like, I hate where, especially a medical show, right? Like, you're all medical professionals. But also, it's like the first abortion as an option discussion I've heard since they overturned Roe versus Wade, right? Like, they've shied away from putting it into entertainment. But the really frustrating thing is just that, like, all of this stuff about these duck hiding people is wrong. Like, this is not how it works.
Well, it's that classic case of a TV or film, like, writer just, like,
this
having
thing
too little
exists.
information to be dangerous, just enough information to be dangerous about a topic, right?
Right.
I know this one little aspect about a thing, so I'm gonna then build this whole other assumption around it, and like that idea that it is a thing that everybody's kind of just doing just on the DL. You know, everybody just everybody's playing the game. You don't think about the fact that you're playing the game until you're playing the game, but everybody is in on this game. But no, we have to make this like a very special group of people that are like maybe taking it too far is maybe the bit. I don't know, but.
No, I
it
mean,
feels
there was
like that's very tropey. It's like, oh yeah, I know how this works, and it's like, no, you don't though. No, I got this.
And that's Dr. Odyssey to the letter, right? The show's not coming back till March, and I will say it is a masterclass, and I know just enough about this topic to create a bit of entertainment that is dangerous, that is spreading misinformation, that is like, I'm laughing, but it's true. Like, that's the type of stuff.
This is why people who binged Law and Order think that they know more about the justice system than actual like attorneys and shit. It's like, this is a common issue with this kind of television watching.
Yeah, and it is just. So it's frustrating, right? And it's like, you know, Pacey, Charlie Banks, Maxwell Bankman, that's his actual name. That's Dr. Odyssey's real name. Like, now he's wondering if maybe he doesn't want to work on ships because he didn't realize the ecological toll they take on the environment because of the ducks. Because he did a bunch of research on ducks. Because he's like, they're bad for the environment. And I'm like, fuck, man.
Yeah, I mean, there is a whole bunch of stuff about, like, rubber ducks that we found because, like, wasn't there, like, a floating, like, pod? I don't know what you call a bunch of rubber ducks. A floating
So there
flock,
was,
I guess.
There was a spill in the Northwest Pacific Ocean where a boat full of rubber ducks went under. And that was 30 years ago. And they still find ducks that can be traced to that lost shipment coming up on beaches. Well, and the nice thing,
there was one where they were following it and taking in like coastal, like what's it called, currents.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Like, so the nice thing about that is that we learned so much about currents because of that. And it's, you know, I mean, it's still an ecological thing, right? It's plastic that's not supposed to be there. Though I really liked the Dr. Odyssey, like, there is not a duck or turtle on this planet that has not ingested plastic. And I'm like, there's not a human on this planet that has not ingested plastic, Dr. Odyssey. Like, weird that you're a medical doctor and you're like, suddenly you care about the animals, but you're not going to talk about the friggin' health concerns about plastic that it literally affects every single human being.
I mean, microplastics is the word du jour nowadays, right?
Yeah.
Like, why not bring that up?
Why not bring up that point? Like, it was just like, again, just enough on this specific topic to be dangerous. And then the discussion, and I am happy, right? It's not Philippa Sue left alone with, like, I'm pregnant, what am I going to do? She found out at the beginning of the episode, she had a discussion with the two guys, but it is, like, honestly, it's a scene of television that I recommend people watch. Not if you're not watching the show, but, like, it's just, like, I feel like they did everything wrong in it. Like, it was just, like, this weird, like, oh, we have a message here, and like his reaction was wrong, right? She's like, you're doing this wrong. And then I'm like, but also you just told him that he might be a father. So like he doesn't get that time to cope with like the new information you gave him. Like it was this weird thing. And then the other one's like, I've gone through 2 pregnancy scares myself. So like we don't really, it's her body and her choice and her decision. And I'm like, but he didn't say to her, like, you're keeping my baby if it's my baby. He approached it like, you know, like, if you want to have the baby, you could still go to medical school. It was just so weird. Like, it stuck out as this, like, really weird thing in an also really weird fucking episode. Oh, and to add matters up, Liz Allen from Spider-Man Homecoming, her character finally showed up again because the 2 threesome episodes had passed. So, like, oh, she can be a love interest for Tristan again. God, Dr. Odyssey. You know what? I'm making a promise to everybody. It's not getting any more airtime on this show. I'm going to say it. These 8 episodes, I have shared my thoughts on it. I don't really enjoy the show. But I watch it because it's weirdly a glimpse for other people into a world that I lived in for a time. And it, as bad as it gets, some of the crew stuff, some of it is so spot on that, like, I'm weirdly nostalgic for those moments. You know what I found myself remembering, Cedra? I remembered how we would all work to, like, midnight. And then we'd go back to our cabins, get dolled up in tuxes and like evening gowns, and go to the disco till 4 a.m. And like, I miss that. I miss that idea of like getting all dolled up after your shift with your coworkers and just going out.
Yeah.
Because like now I found out like the bar that I go to for karaoke on Tuesdays, they close at 10. They stay open an extra hour because of the karaoke.
Yeah.
But like bars are closing so early. I just sorry.
Yeah, trying to find anything to do in like past 8 o'clock at night in Utah is not worth it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good to know.
Everywhere you go, kitchens are closing by 9. Like bars are closing by 10. It's I don't know. Nobody wants to go out and do anything like that anymore. It's just not the way that people live their lives, I guess.
Yeah, it's stuff that I like. I mean, I already knew that like the next generation isn't as into drinking out. I don't know if they're like all anti-alcohol consumption, but I know that like going to a bar is not something that Gen Z likes to do.
You know, who can blame anybody when you go out to a bar and it's like $14 for a drink that you could put together 10 of those at home for you and your friends for pretty much the same price? Like, what do you like? It's crazy. Like I don't blame anybody that doesn't want to be out
I don't
and
either.
doing
It's
that
just,
kind of stuff, right?
I guess I knew that there was going to be an extinction level event for the bar. I just wasn't prepared for it. That's where I'm at with that. Extinction level event was very, very hyperbolic there. I apologize. But but it is. It's something that it's come to like note this past week more for me. So also, do you know what they consider a trait of millennials? Like something that defines our generation?
What's another thing that they've labeled all of us doing?
Plastic surgery. That we're like the first generation that like normalized plastic surgery. And that's such an interesting thing to me because it's not something that like, it's not movies, television, video games, comic books, or regular novels. So it's not something that I could think about, but like it tracks.
I don't know, man. I maybe this is just an out here thing, but there's a lot of. I will say that the normalization of like low level body modification over the years has definitely become just the norm, right?
Yes.
And I know that because out here there's a ton of places where you can go and get your teeth done, you can go and get lifts, you can get low level Botox and that kind of thing, and you could do it in like an afternoon, and then like you do that, and then you go out and have mimosas and brunch after or whatever. Like that is like what people there is a trend in the world that for people to be doing that. The thing is that I see that a lot more out here with older generations and more like Gen X and some maybe not so much boomers.
It was interesting
beyond that. I guess maybe some older millennials. It sounds like something that I'm sure that they've got the stats to back it up, but I sure as hell don't see in my day-to-day, which I feel like is everything they ever say about generational norms of any generation.
Right.
Whenever they talk about how a generation, and they lump them together as a whole, say that they are responsible for this, I'm like, I guess you could say that, but like, I don't see it. I understand that I don't see the whole world though, so like, if you've got the evidence to back it up, you've got the evidence to back it up. But for my day-to-day, that's just not the way that I see these things. And the generational norms have never quite made sense to me.
Well, yeah, like I hate any sort of labeling or like generalization like that. But that was one where I thought about it. And it's like, yeah, like before it'd be like jokes about like, oh, she got her nose done. But then like it just got normalized. And I feel like with like breast augmentation or things like that, butt lifts and stuff like that, it totally, and I looked at the numbers and I'm like, yeah, no, it's a definitive thing that they can talk about and definitely hang on our generation. I never really thought about it.
I'd be curious to hear though how much more of it is done nowadays for actual health reasons though, because there's a lot of stuff that goes on like breast reduction that is happening amongst a lot of people our age because of the fact that just for health reasons, between what the damage that things are doing to their back, cancer, like things like that. Like there's reasons why people go in to get plastic surgery that are not vain reasons, right?
Right, exactly.
So I would be curious to see if not, while we may have normalized the idea of plastic surgery, did it become normalized because what we did is we viewed it as what it should have always been, as constructive, like surgery, help, right? like in that regard,
less elective and more medical. Yeah, I agree.
Right. I know somebody that got a nose job in their life, but I know that the reason that they got that is because that they had some stuff going on sinus wise that they just needed to get in there and get fixed, right? So it just led to them getting a nose job, right? Like that is just part of the process in that regard. So like, I would not. So yeah. So I'd be very curious to hear that breakdown. In addition to this idea that we have somehow normalized plastic surgery.
But looking through all the wicked stuff and generational things and how that's a generational thing, I looked at some of the things that define generations, and plastic surgery is one that I found for millennials that just kind of, that one sticks out. But then it didn't stick out as much as I thought when I thought about just like in my life, people who've had surgeries. Yeah. It's been normalized for us, right? That might be worse as to why it's a generational representation. Is it so commonplace to you and I that like people get that stuff, whether it be elective or for medical reasons?
And it's not a joke. Like one of the things to consider in that is that what that says to me is we also don't make it the joke anymore, right?
Yes.
Like that was the bit with was it Rachel on
Rachel on
Friends?
Friends, that she had a nose job.
Like, right, and like that just doesn't work. That's not what we do anymore. We don't make fun of the fact that like, oh, you used to have an ugly nose, so you got it. You know, like that's not funny. That's not humor to us anymore.
Right, exactly. I don't know. It was just interesting to tie it all together. The Ryan Murphy nip tuck wicked of it all. Because I think we're ready to pull this one in, right? We have some housekeeping to do for the listeners to make sure
Let's do it.
They know what's coming up. So the first thing is, as Sijan mentioned, he's traveling for Thanksgiving. So you're getting a scheduled episode for next week. We've already recorded it. I'm kind of proud of it, even though it may not seem that way when you listen to it. But if you want to do your homework so that you're prepared for it, the next full episode of the Say Report is called The 12 Shorts of Simpsons, and it focuses on the 12 Simpsons shorts that are available on Disney Plus for you to consume right now. And we put our magnifying glasses over that for a pretty deep exploration. And it was a fun episode to record, even if my soul has just recently begun to regrow after recording it. That's a hell of a trailer, right? You should definitely listen to it, right? The other thing to note is usually this week we would be delivering a very special episode because it's the final Thursday of the month. But with that final Thursday being Thanksgiving, we've decided to push it. But what you have to look forward to as a very special episode in December, the first week of December, is The Godfather Part 2. Which I'm very excited to talk about after our Godfather episode. We had surprisingly a lot of fun with that one. And you want to talk about generational things. The Godfather is another one of those long-lasting franchises, a la The Wizard of Oz. So look for that the first Thursday of December. And don't worry, we'll still have a very special episode in December. That'll release on the 26th. And I'm excited about that one too. I'll tell you right now, it's Surviving Christmas. We threatened to do it last year when we watched Paycheck. We're making good on that threat. But because we do want to still deliver content to you on Thanksgiving, if you want to escape from your family and everything, Sijan, Dale, and I, at the very start of November, did a 30-turn game of Mario Party, the Super Mario Party Jamboree, and we streamed that out on the Say Report Twitch channel. But we also have the video. So that video will be going up on our YouTube exclusive of the three of us doing a 30-round turn of Super Mario Party Jamboree. And I got to tell you, you might not have to watch the whole thing, but the last 20 minutes are fucking bananas. The insanity. Just insanity. I'm so happy that we recorded it. But I think that's all the housekeeping that I wanted to make sure we get out to the people. Anything else that you want to add, Sijan? Or
no. Everybody have a good holiday, and everybody stay safe, and we'll see you on the other end.
Yeah, stay safe that holiday. As always, the Discord's out there if you want to continue the conversation. There are invites on our social media pages on Facebook and X, formerly Twitter, or you can send an email to thesayreport@gmail.com and request an invite. We'll send it out to you. Or if you just want to correspond that way, just send us emails and we'll respond to you. And if it's just for me or for Sejin, just make sure you put our name in the subject line and it will be distributed appropriately. With that, I see no reason to keep you here any longer. Thank you very much for coming to this episode of the Say Report. William, please bring these people home. Have a happy holiday.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devon Decker and Sejin Serwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.